What if changing your mind isn't always a sign of intelligence, but sometimes a sign of something deeper going on in the mind? Think about it. There are people who decide something confidently today, and tomorrow they completely reverse it. In politics, we call it a U-turn. In everyday life, we call it inconsistent, but psychologically, it's not always that simple. So why do some people frequently change their decisions after making them? Let's break it down. First, they make decisions under pressure, not clarity. Many U-turns don't start with bad intentions. They start with rush decisions. When people feel pressure, social, emotional, or situational, they say what resolves tension fastest. Yes, I'll do it. Yes, I agree. Yes, that makes sense. But that yes was not born from clarity. It was born from pressure relief. And once the pressure disappears, clarity returns. That's when the U-turn happens. Second, they confuse flexibility with indecision. There is a healthy form of changing your mind. And then there is unstable decision-making. Some people genuinely believe they are being flexible and open-minded, but in reality, they lack a stable internal filter for decisions. So they shift based on who they talked to last, what emotion they felt, what fear showed up, what opportunity appeared. Psychologically, this creates a pattern of external influence over internal conviction. Third, they lack emotional commitment to their own decisions. For some individuals, decisions are not deeply rooted. They don't feel emotionally connected to what they decide. So when circumstances change, or even slightly challenge their decision, there is no strong internal resistance to changing direction. It's like a leaf in the wind. The decision was never anchored in identity or values, so reversing it doesn't feel like a big deal. Fourth, they are highly influenced by new information even when it's incomplete. Some minds are extremely reactive to new inputs, a new opinion, a different perspective, a single convincing argument, and suddenly everything changes. The problem is not being open-minded. The problem is overcorrecting too quickly. Instead of processing information deeply, they replace old decisions instantly with new ones, so their thinking becomes reactive rather than stable. Fifth, fear of consequences after commitment. A hidden psychological factor behind many U-turns is fear. When reality starts getting close, responsibility becomes real. And responsibility carries risk. What if I fail? What if I get blamed? What if I made the wrong choice? So instead of facing that risk, they reverse the decision. Not because the decision was wrong, but because the emotional weight of continuing feels heavy. Sixth, they struggle with internal consistency. Consistency requires one core thing, a strong internal belief system. But people who frequently change direction often don't have a solid internal compass, so their decisions are not anchored in principles, long-term thinking, or stable self-identity. Instead, they are driven by short-term emotional states. And emotions change quickly, so decisions change quickly too. Seventh, they try to avoid being wrong at all costs. This is one of the deepest reasons. For some people, being wrong feels unacceptable. So when they receive new information or face doubt, instead of accepting a mistake, they correct it publicly by changing direction. This protects their ego, but it damages trust over time, because people around them start seeing inconsistency instead of adaptability. Now here's the deeper psychological truth. Not all U-turns are bad. Sometimes changing your mind is wisdom. But there is a difference between evolving your thinking and reacting to discomfort. One comes from awareness, the other comes from instability. Because strong decision makers don't avoid change, they just don't change impulsively. They reflect, they evaluate, then they adjust. But they don't swing back and forth based on pressure, fear, or external voices. And over time, something important happens. People don't just judge your decisions. They judge your consistency in decisions. Because consistency builds trust. And trust builds credibility. So the real question is not, do you ever change your mind? The real question is, why do you change it? And what triggers that shift inside you? Now I want you to think honestly. Is there a recent decision you reversed quickly, and when you reflect on it, was it truly a better decision, or were you reacting to pressure, fear, or someone else's opinion? Write your answer in the comments. I read them, and I genuinely want to understand your perspective.